Thanks, Christy. Okay, after all that, I think we're ready to start. Yep.
Jack is our chair. I think Jack is chair, right? So if you want
All right, let's get going here. This meeting, all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes. So the citizen are made aware of time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call.
Jason McKeefrey, I'm the land information officer, GIS coordinator.
Everybody.
Oh, okay.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion made second to approve the agenda. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Likewise, the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion approved.
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment? I don't think we have anybody. And then we'll go to number one. Jason.
I think it'd be good, Jason was starting to introduce everybody. Again, we have some new members here. I think it'd be a good idea to go around the room.
Okay.
Jack, as far as who is who, so.
Okay, so I'm Jason McKeefrey, the land information officer and GIS coordinator.
John Galoy, I'm the GIS specialist and note taker.
Jeremy Shanicki, Register of Deeds elect.
Mark Suther, treasurer.
Andy Carlin, emergency management.
Faye Wilson, broker owner of Faye Wilson Realty.
Ted Johnson, County Board Supervisor for District 13.
County surveyor, Joel Gillespie.
Donna Drosco, property lister.
Bernie Ritchie, supervisor, District 26.
Jack Spearing, supervisor, 19.
Mike Zieg, GIS manager at East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Okay. Jason.
All right, thanks everybody for showing up here today. I'm hoping that this can be interesting for at least the new folks, and I hope that it's kind of a review and entertaining for the rest of us. The idea was to sort of give you a general idea of what the Land Information Office does, kind of as an introduction to the Land Information Plan and the Wisconsin Land Information Program. When I do this, I always like to take kind of like a historical look, partly because I'm fairly fascinated with the history of it, and I think it kind of helps people understand kind of how important it is that, you know, what we do. So this first slide is what we refer to as a general land office map. And these were produced back in the middle 1800s for Waupaca County. In this case, we're looking at the town of Dayton, I believe. So one of the purposes of these maps was that after the Revolutionary War, the federal government was in possession of basically all the land in Wisconsin right now. And they needed a way to raise revenue. And so what they did is they sold land to private interests. And in order to do that, they devised this system that we call the Public Land Survey System. And that's part of the information that's shown on this map here. So like right down here, you can kind of see some of the dates, middle 1800s. And you can see how the land is gridded out into sections. And, Joe could definitely explain more about this map, but essentially they were going along these lines and they were setting up I can't remember if in the middle 1800s, if they were setting up the actual section corners. Certainly, at least the town corners. But you can see a lot of other information on these maps, like these trails or roads. They kept track of where they ran into rivers. They also, documented things like swamps. You can see some plowed fields. All different kinds of information on these maps. And so one of the things there was back when the land was getting settled was it was called the land office. And there were these local offices, and when settlers would come into the area, they would go there, and that's where they'd actually make a claim on the land that they wanted to buy. And then in some cases, the land was actually, I believe, given to private interests for their service in the military. So even back in the 1850s, there was a land office. And I guess one of the messages or take homes of this is that our office, and I should say in conjunction with the Register of Deeds, is what fulfills that function today. And obviously it's different today. We still do use pen and paper. So this slide shows what a current parcel map looks like. It's not just showing, this is just one section, but now we have all the parcel boundaries within here. So we still do use pen and paper. Here is like the first part of us doing our parcel mapping, where Donna, the property lister, actually marks up on the map basically how the parcel has to change. And so these maps were produced by what we call a geographic information system. And so I'm not going to give you like an academic definition of what a geographic information system, this is sort of my experience and kind of how I think of the geographic information system, because I'm guessing that might be kind of a new idea for some people. So it's a fairly complicated network of computers, including other geographic information systems that are connected through the internet. And basically they store data, they allow us to query the data, they allow us to process and analyze and create new data. And basically every piece of information that we have, maybe not every piece, but a lot of it has location information with it, maybe in the form of coordinates. And the GIS really exposes graphical tools and mapping that really help understand and convey, the information and ideas. The other thing that I wouldn't want to forget in describing a geographic information system is how much it allows us to automate. So every night here in Waupaca County, there's hours of processing that happens without any, human intervention to produce some of the products that we make available. And so I guess one of the things I always like to kind of hit home is that the geographic information system is really what brings a lot of value to the information that we have. It makes it easy to share and integrate. And I mean, we could still do a lot of what we do with pen and paper, but it wouldn't be as valuable. It wouldn't be as accessible. It wouldn't be as accurate. It wouldn't be as fast. And so that's kind of what a lot of this is about. So I remember from UWSP, I think John had the same professor. One of the things I remember him explaining to us is that we can't really forget the people when we think about a geographic information system, and that's people that maintain it, and then also people that use it. And so like our geographic information system, just a couple of years ago, became much more utilized in what we call next generation 911. And I guess this is kind of leads me into explain that our office also does all of the addressing in Waupaca counties. We issue addresses for rural areas and we maintain that information. And we also maintain that information for like the cities and villages. We don't issue the addresses, but we certainly have that in our GIS. And so with next generation 911, the GIS became very tightly coupled with the ability for anybody to call 911 and the call to be instantly mapped. I think it's easier to think about other county users in terms of like our building. So like the first floor, I think there's pretty much almost everybody uses the GIS on probably a daily basis. So that's land and water, planning and zoning, register of deeds, our own office, the clerk, UW Extension. And then if you go to the second floor, there's Department of Health and Human Services. They probably use it a little bit less, but they have used it in the past. And the case that I can think of is during COVID, we made a dashboard for them to kind of publish statistics and kind of keep track of things. The third floor probably doesn't use it quite as much. Maybe sometimes they'll ask us to do like an exhibit for a case or something like that. But then outside of the courthouse, we have other government agencies. That would be something like the Census Bureau. We get calls from the Census Bureau as they look at our maps and they have questions for us. Things like the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And then we have other private institutions, financial institutions. We have realtors like Faye that use it on a daily basis. And then one thing I kind of forgot to mention is like, I like to explain how like, there's a reason that the Land Information Office is within the Treasurer's Department because we're basically the tool that allows the assessment of the property. So that's another important function. Another big thing that we get involved with, you know, not as frequently, but with like a few years ago, we did what was called redistricting. And so that whole process was conducted entirely using GIS information. There were very few printed maps actually made for that. And that's another fundamentally important thing that we get involved in terms of setting up the geography through which all the voting and our kind of democracy functions. So again, I just wanted to explain that the GIS is really a tool that makes a lot of this information just very valuable. And that should take us basically to talking a little bit about the Wisconsin Land Information Program. So the funding for the Wisconsin Land Information Program comes from the document recording fees. And the way that works is $15 of the recording fee goes to the county. And then $8 of it, let's see, is it $8? Yeah, $8 gets retained for land information, so it stays here. And then $7 gets sent to the Wisconsin Land Information Program, also for land information. But what happens is some of the counties record many more documents, they make much more revenue. And so the Land Information Program essentially redistribute some of this money to counties like ours where we have less than $100,000 retained for land information. And so we get a grant that takes us up to $100,000. And then we also get something called a strategic initiative grant. And that kind of varies in terms of how much funding there is. And it depends on how many documents are recorded, which depends on the real estate market. So a strategic initiative grant would be used in past years by us. We've used it mostly for our PLSS maintenance projects. So we go out and we collect GPS coordinates for all the section corners, and we make sure there's a monument there in good condition. And I forget exactly when we started that, but it had gone on for quite a while, maybe like a decade. So that was what that strategic initiative grant got used for. And then periodically, we use it to pay for aerial ortho imagery, which we'll talk about a little bit. And then there's also a $1,000 training grant that we get each year. And so with that, I will get into talking more about the land information plan, which is a requirement of the Wisconsin Land Information Program. I'm not gonna say a whole lot of detail about a lot of what's in the plan, because a lot of it sort of just details the status of our various layers. The other thing I'll say about the land information plan is that I think it's purposely meant to be somewhat flexible. And kind of general. But it is a good guide as to what we would be working on. A lot of what's in our land information plan for new projects over this next 3 years has to do with changes in the GIS technology. And I guess I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get into some of that. So there's two kind of default projects that are in the land information plan. One is a plan to maintain the searchable format. So the searchable format is basically our parcel data. So we do parcel mapping on a daily basis. And what this is we have to maintain specific formats and submit the data to the state so that they can put it together into a statewide parcel map. It's been an ongoing effort for quite some time, and each year it's released and used by all kinds of folks. The other sort of default plan that's in the land information plan is the plan to maintain the public land survey system information. And this also gets submitted to the state. For us, we finished our last big maintenance project in 2023, 2022 and 2023. So now for us, a big part of this is really using that accurate public land survey system data to make our parcel mapping more accurate. And then the rest of it is really kind of just additional projects that we'll do over the next 3 years. The first project that's in there is to get new ortho photos. So ortho photos are aerial photos, but they're very special in that they're made to be very accurate. We can't just fly and take pictures of the ground and then expect those to be accurate for the purposes of our mapping. There's all kinds of specialized processing that makes corrections for changes in the elevation of the ground and distortion that happens at the edges of these cameras that they use. And there's all kinds of specific technology, including the camera itself. So we usually we've always participate in what's called the Wisconsin Regional Ortho Imagery Consortium, WROC, we call it for short.
It's easier.
And that's kind of a partnership with think it's always been AIRS, which is a private consulting firm, and the North Central Regional Planning Commission. And so they involve multiple counties and other partners, including the state and like state agencies. And it's a way to kind of reduce the cost for everybody. We've been doing this, I think, since the middle nineties. And so I thought we'd maybe take a quick look at what these look like. And we do this on a 5-year basis. This is the land records viewer. That's a publicly accessible mapping application. And so we're kind of just looking at the courthouse there. But within here, actually I want the base maps. You can see that we make all the aerial imagery available. So since 1994, you can go back and see how things change. Every 5 years, with the most recent being our 2020 photos. And so this project this first project is to collect new aerial photos. The next project in the plan has to do with big changes that we made this year in converting our tax and assessment database. So our tax and assessment database used to be based on a very, well, the server itself wasn't old, but the technology is fairly old. We call it the AS400, and that has been around since the 90s and maintained, and it got to the point where there's very few people that really know how to work with and customize and maintain this. So we switched over to what's called Ascent. And so you can imagine over however many years we've had this going, we've sort of tied our GIS to this old technology, and now we kind of have to untie it and rewire. So that's what this next project is in our land information plan. The third project is one that I believe is kind of carried over from the last plan, where we're working to sort of figure out a good way to maintain building footprints. And so I'll show you what these kind of look like. This is a different web application that's out there to show more of our zoning information. But you can see all the white building footprints around all the structures. And this is something that would be used kind of by zoning, or maybe even on the public safety side of things. Sometimes these buildings are hard to see right away if they're out in the woods or something like that. And you can imagine they change over time. So John did some work to sort of use other data sources. These ones were put together largely through LiDAR, which is like laser scanning of the ground surface. We've had a couple of those projects in the past, and we'll probably revisit that in the future. It tends to be very expensive, and so it's not something we would do all the time. But there are other ways that we can look at sort of maintaining that layer. So that's what that other project is about. And I think that was the last slide I had on the various projects. So we'll just go through each one, and I'll say a little bit about the project, looking at the plan here. So this project 4 is to develop a couple new layers. And I think this one might have been carried over from previous plans as well. But a couple things that zoning looks at when they're doing land use permits are how far are these structures that people are planning from road center lines and the lot lines. And so we could automate a lot of that to just kind of show what those restrictions are on a map, and to make it easier for people, if they're trying to figure out what they can and can't do with their property, and also for zoning to be able to make decisions a little bit easier and quicker. So this project here is a project that is brought about by changes in the GIS technology. So probably more like 10 years ago, we converted to something that's called the parcel fabric. Now that parcel fabric, it's like a data structure that we use for parcel mapping. And it only works in the old client program that we have called ArcMap. We've been switching to something called ArcGIS Pro for several years now, but we haven't changed that part of our parcel mapping. And so we really it's time to go one way or another. And so we're still kind of looking at what might work best for us. There's a lot of added complexity to, it seems to us, in the ArcGIS Pro parcel fabric. And so we're considering trying to use some of these new tools that might make it easier to just work with the parcel polygons, like we used to do, a long time ago. So we're still trying to make that decision and have to do testing and looking at some of the new tools. Okay, this project also has to do with NG 911. So when we went to NG 911, I think that we were meeting a smaller subset of all the standards that are as compared to the full NG 911 standards. And that was by design. Our what's called the EZINet and NG 911 system is set up to use some of the legacy information, like legacy road names. But there are other standards that I would anticipate would come online in the future. So I want to be ready to be able to meet all those standards. And there's a lot of automation that's set up and tools that just kind of need to get reconfigured to produce this other data. So that's what that project's about. So project 7 is to redesign and convert our tax parcel maps to ArcGIS Pro. So again, this is a change in the technology. There's a very automated process that's used to produce our tax parcel maps, and it's time to sort of step back, take a look at what these look like, maybe redesign aspects of the maps themselves, try to make the process a little bit simpler. And hopefully there's some tools in ArcGIS Pro that will help do that. I brought actually an example of our tax parcel maps back there if you wanted to take a look. That's just one township's worth. We have a whole rack in our office for all of the towns. It's a really important tool for our parcel mapping. Even in cases where we had the network interruption, those maps suddenly became more important. So project 8 is to convert the Spillman, what we call geo-validation, to ArcGIS Pro. So this is the public safety end of things. In the sheriff's department, the dispatchers use a program called Spillman, and the GIS data is actually sitting out there as services that their software basically hits every time a call comes into their office and instantly maps that call. And that data is periodically updated with tools on our end. And so these tools need to be converted so that they work with this ArcGIS Pro. And it's a fairly complicated series of tools that get run. That's what this project is about. So project 9 is to upgrade some of our GIS web applications from what's called Web App Builder. We also have very custom web applications to something called ArcGIS Experience Builder. And this is sort of a required change in the technology because the Web App Builder will not be supported. I can't remember what year, but it's coming up in this cycle. So we want to kind of move away from some of that to this more standard ArcGIS Web App Builder. And we have a fair amount out there to convert and make sure it works properly. So that's what this project is for. Project 10 is to upgrade our enterprise geodatabase to support these later versions of ArcGIS Pro. So right now, we have a database server that runs an enterprise database system that stores kind of our working GIS data. And we have it up to a level that allows both the old GIS program called ArcMap and the new GIS program to connect and work with it. Eventually, in order to use the latest versions of this ArcGIS Pro, we have to take this database further along, and what that'll do is basically make it so that the old software can't really connect and work with the data. So it takes a lot of planning and kind of testing to make sure this is all gonna work out, and that's what this project is for. Okay, project 11 is to clean up and reorganize what we have in ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Online is basically a GIS cloud platform. So we store data not here, but on servers provided by the GIS provider. And we host applications there. We share our own services through this ArcGIS Online. And we've been using it for, I think, over a decade. And it's starting to get kind of messy, and we want to make sure that we're using that storage efficiently and that the people here have some guidelines to kind of know how we should be organizing things. Project 12 is to update our snowplow route web map application. So just a couple years ago, last year, we updated all of our snowplow maps, and these are PDF files, but we want to make these more available to you know, the plow drivers and the foreman and the highway department. So we'll update one of our web applications for that. Project 13 is to review and plan for changes in our ArcGIS licensing. Right now, we are still using something called concurrent use licensing, and it works really well for us, but like if you were to go to license the software now, I believe they wouldn't let you do this type of licensing anymore. And so we need to kind of get our head around what they want you to be doing. And I believe that is gonna work off of something called ArcGIS Portal and maybe even ArcGIS Online, but we sort of need to review what we're doing with the licensing. And that's what this project is for. And then project 14 is to do a web application that makes the highway transportation plats available to the public online. I think right now, a lot of times they have to call Kyle in the highway department, and he has to go rifling through files to find the particular plat. So hopefully we can kind of streamline that and make his life a little bit easier and other people's lives easier. I think that's all I really had to say about the land information plan. But then right after I finished working on this draft version, I had another idea that I wanted to mention, and I intend to add this to the plan. And this would be sort of as a result of all the remodeling that's planned. What I'd like to do is kind of try doing what's, I think we're calling it indoor mapping now. It's kind of an avenue that GIS has taken, which just naturally makes sense because a map is a map. And basically what it would be is a way for people to more quickly understand where they might need to go if they're coming to the courthouse. So I've talked with the clerk some, and I've talked with Eric from Emergency Management, and Ron. And they seemed supportive of the idea, and I think, you know, we need to obviously do a lot more brainstorming on this to kind of figure out what kind of information would we want to make public? Is it just internal? What are, you know, the questions that would need to quickly be answered for people, whether it's from a safety standpoint or just finding your way around the building? So I would add that to the plan if we all thought that was a good idea. So that's really kind of what I had, and again, what I'd like people to sort of take home is like all the different things that we can do with the information that we have. And that's really what our office is about, is making information that we have valuable, easy to work with and available. So I think, you know, we probably should have maybe some kind of a vote as to, I mean, or have discussion about approving the land information plan. So I guess I would ask,
I think you're right on track. I mean, that hit a lot of priorities that we have in our building.
or are there questions?
I guess I have one. You're talking about storing a lot of the information in the cloud. Do you have any way that you have something here within the courthouse in case something get compromised within the clouds, that you have that data here other than just on paper? You have like your, I don't know anything about technology, but like your SIM cards for each district?
That's a really good question. And some of that was tested with the network outage. And so we haven't really stored very much exclusively in the cloud yet. A lot of our data is it's served through our ArcGIS server. And so we've used the cloud more to host applications and share the services that are actually on our server. But we do have plans to move more to having stuff in the cloud. So we probably should think about that more in terms of replicating data and mirroring what we have in the cloud, also be accessible here if we can't get to the cloud, which is dependent on the internet.
I think that's getting Brent involved in what their vision is there, but I believe the IT's vision is more and more cloud use versus being stored internally for security reasons. But I don't pretend to know that anymore either. But
No. I don't know how much space this takes up. And if you'd have a computer that you could just store it on as a backup, that it would be, you store it on there and it's shut off so that it can't be compromised. I don't know anything about technology, so I just
Well,
thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, and I guess I would say this, I think one of the great things about our IT and even, you know, really the people that lead the county is that we've invested a lot in systems that allow us to have virtual infrastructure. So we have this pool of hardware back there that basically runs separate virtual servers. And this technology really is ideal for being able to back things up and very quickly recover servers. And this includes GIS servers. So we have our ArcGIS server is vertical, and some of this is in the land formation plan as part of documenting our status and that kind of stuff. So we have the ArcGIS server that's vertical or virtual. Our database server is also virtual. File server is not virtual. But that's I think that's a very forward-thinking way of doing things and makes things more secure. And I think it did make it easier to get back to business during the network outage. So if there's, isn't any more questions or discussion, then I guess I would ask for a motion to approve the land information plan.
I move to approve that, your plan.
I'll second it.
Okay, then I guess we take a vote.
Review the budget or you?
All right, well, we'll take a vote to
Just
approve
the
the
plan.
plan. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ortho imagery project is next up.
Oh, okay. So I talked about that, I think in a fair amount of detail as part of the plan. It's, the way I would put it is that it would be really strange if a county did not maintain, current ortho imagery. It is a fundamental, basic layer that is just rich in information and provides context for basically everything. Multiple county departments use it, highway planning, zoning, public safety, emergency management. We do a lot of we base a lot of our parcel mapping on the aerial photos in terms of what we see, and the citizens come in almost daily for photos. It might be for hunting, that's a lot of it, and understanding, neighbors' property and maybe they have issues. We've had fire departments come in for mapping in terms of maintaining landscape around buildings. It just kind of goes on and on. So,
One thing I learned is really interesting how they do that. You talked about working with multiple counties. So again, typically in April, before the leaves come on, the snow's off, they target and basically they fly in grids, multiple counties with these planes. They show a picture of the plane. That's pretty cool looking there. I don't pretend to know all that, but but you mentioned earlier about how much work they do to confine that pictures. I mean, they do that in April and we don't usually get the information until what, the fall? Was it late summer, fall before they release that to us? So they're taking their photos, then they go back and they refine them and work with all those things. And I don't think we get updated till, was it September last time? Either way, it's multiple months.
I think I have the time on it.
It's all right, it's not important, Jason, but bottom line is, it's really incredible technology, but it's really neat what they do. So we do spend, it's expensive, and I don't wanna say it's expensive, cause I don't think it's expensive when you look at the value we get out of it. I think actually we get a lot of bang for a dollar. And I don't know if you're gonna go on the numbers, I don't wanna get in front of you here, Jason, as far as what they're proposing potentially for this year to even get more bang for a dollar, so I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the cost numbers right off the top of my head, but the way it works is we pay a certain amount, and depending on how much participation there is, we get a rebate. And we would use a strategic initiative grant to pay for that this year. Or well, it'd be next year. And as I understand it, the strategic initiative grant is expected to be about $20,000. So 20,000 would come right from the land information program. And then the remainder would be made up with, whatever we've budgeted.
We budget every 5 years. It's on the capital improvement plan that we have for the county. So every 5 years, I put it on there and we budget 70,000. Has been what we've budgeted every 5 years for this. Again, I might be getting in front of him a little bit this year, but based on numbers that come back, and I know he's got it up on there, I'll let him talk about the resolution, but early forecast or what I'm budgeting is 68,128 or 118 is the number we're coming in at for this year. And it's for an improved resolution. I'll let you talk about that a little bit, Jason. If it's the same resolution that we currently have seen in the past as a 6-inch, it would be less than that, but with some grants funding for that improved resolution, it's an opportunity to have even more detail and roughly what we paid 5 years ago in that 62,000, so it's.
Yeah, so like the,
Technologies.
yeah, like Mark said, we're trying to get a grant to cover going from 6-inch to 3-inch resolution and it's always amazing the difference that you see when you double the resolution like that. So it really would be a useful product. It's, you know, we don't know for sure yet, probably later this, no, mid-October, sometime in October, we would find out about this other granting. Since about 2010, I think we've had 6-inch imagery, and that works well for our needs, but you don't know what you don't have until you have it. And so like the 3-inch, I think would be a real eye opener.
Be careful what you're doing on that flyover day. It might be interesting, 'cause I mean, I find mine interesting. When I look at my home and I remember I had a tarp on my deck for various reasons, and that sticks out big time then, but that's a 6-inch. I can only imagine with 3-inch and how much more effective and useful it will be. So to me, it's amazing. Like you said, in the budget, we'll talk about the costs of technology are going up. I know IT's overall budget has skyrocketed just to pay for their software and things like that. And we see it a little bit on our end, but then when you see something like this, that's not any more costly than 5 years ago and what the resolution potential there. Now, again, we're getting some grants, so the overall cost might be absorbed a little bit more by some grant funds, but to not see this number go up drastically is amazing to me and what we can get out of it. And again, I'm amazed at what this stuff can do and how it's used, and Jason touched base on zoning. I watched them use our mapping and they're using it for their building permits and things and working with people on setbacks and all that. It's just amazing. I think the 3-inch could take that to a whole nother level for them as well. So, and John, I know with setting up the addresses and things like that. I mean, it's just gonna be so much more effective, but it is an amazing thing to watch, to see that. Since I've come here, I have a bigger real appreciation for that technology.
Joe has a question.
Yeah, the accuracy on the aerial photos we have today versus 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's unreal. Today, when that plane is flying over every 5 years, it's got a GPS unit in it. It's locked into latitude and longitude as it flies. They grid the county to go back and forth. And as it takes that photo, as it goes over, it gives a lat and long point for it. And in the old days, if you need to get the ground control onto that aerial photo, you have to have these big crosses, white crosses on the roads. You don't see that anymore because that plane is GPS. So every section, quarter, corner, and center sections also has a lat and long on it. We do it 2 ways. On a tie sheet, we show a lat and long, we show a county coordinate. So when that plane's flying over, it's going lat and long, and we can convert our lat and long to a county survey. So our points on the ground are really close. In the old days, I mean, if you hit this building with that same point, you're lucky. Now you're top of this container. So it's accuracy of those maps is, and the resolution is so much better too. It is getting better every time every 5 years they fly. There's more technology that refines it even more.
And one thing I'll say to you, Joe, is that in the past with the photos, we have identified things on the photo where we know where it is on the ground. And like section corners, like they might dig out a section corner in the road and plug it with asphalt. We can see that in the photo, and we'll use those as kind of like a check.
They'll go with the surveyors. I'll contract a township, the surveyors go and hit all 133 section corner, quarter corners, and centers. They'll dig that hole in the blacktop to expose the monuments that's there, because the monuments are all there and they're just going back rechecking them and getting GPS coordinates on them. Like Jason said, on an aerial photo, you can scale down till you see the hole. If there's different contrast from the blacktop to where they patched it, you can see that hole where they dug it'll fit that coordinate in that hole, which is super accurate.
I got a question on that. Have you ever found the monuments to move? Soft soils, frost, whatever it might be that they shift over?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We have a problem, even every monument, section quarter corners and the roads, the town goes through, he does the road, they'll never get that thing to the accuracy that we have now. When we lock it in with our GPS and our coordinate base, that thing is one set point, and they go through there, they take the mat off and they'll knock the monument out. Even you go back and I have like 4 witness corners around it, you can remeasure it in, get it pretty accurate. But sometimes even those corners, when they do a big road project, everything's gone. But as long as that coordinate's there and there's other monuments on the ground that are real accurate, the surveyor can go back in and put it right back exactly where it belongs.
And this is kind of where it just gets fascinating to me that we maintain this basic system. We still do the land records the same way. It's all tied back to that public land survey system. It all came from,
We're talking about what people walk on. You can have all this software, everything else, but it's the ground we're on. Waupaca County, when you walk on it, it's what it's the buildings are, it's the fields and the, it's more than just the technology, the screen and the application. That's what we build our houses on and farm.
Another quick question for you. Is there a charge for using this? If a hunter wants to find out something, if someone's building a house, they need a fire number, if a realtor is setting up something, is there a fee for this system to help recoup some of these expenses?
so the web applications are free. There's no charge for that kind of thing. If somebody comes in, well, I can do this from their house. But even if they come to the counter, we can kind of walk them through and work with them. We don't charge for that. What we do charge for is like printing supplies or for if we have to put in extra work to make like a custom map, which we do. And I brought an example of that in the back if you want to take a look. That was one we did for a person who does bicycling guiding. It's in Iola, Scandinavia,
Yeah,
that area.
Greg Lesher.
But that's, I did a little write-up on that map that also kind of conveys how cool it is, like what the GIS can do and that kind of stuff. But so like for a map like that, it might take us an hour or two, so we bill for the time for that, and then also for the printing costs. So our color printing on a large format like that is $3 a square foot, and then smaller maps like this size would be $2 for a color print, and then twice this size is $3. So, reasonable costs kind of to cover what it takes to buy paper and replace.
I would say
ink.
actual cost, no, they're not
Okay.
getting reimbursed now again, but I think a big part of this is grant funded, is this stuff, so. Part of that's tied to that, to be reasonably charged, it's a service that's provided to the public, so we don't get the money, like you said, what they spend on a map to do that should be
That's a good point.
$100 and some odd dollars, well, they're not gonna charge that in the grant piece, so.
I was just
We
wondering.
always talk about, he always asked me about how much you think I should charge, and I said, well, for what it's probably worth $200, because it is, but
Mhm.
they might get $50 or whatever, or the simple one little page map, we charge $2. I mean, that's just ridiculously low, but that's
Yeah.
what's out there,
Yeah.
that's what, it's a service part for us as a county.
That, and I think, like John had just mentioned to me, that with the Wisconsin Land Information Program, I think the goals are that the information is out there for the public without a charge.
I think I'm up next, review and approve the budget, so I'll send one down that way. I don't have enough for everybody, but certainly the committee members can get one. I'll review it. I don't have copy for everybody. So with the budget, I get, Jason mentioned earlier that the GIS department, Donna, the real estate lister, is under my authority as the county treasurer. Which is nice, but I have incredible appreciation for these 4 individuals in this office, because it's an area that I do not have any area of expertise in this area. I mean, Jason as the leader in there, and we brought John aboard since I've been here. Donna's been here before I got here as our real estate lister, and Joe I have great appreciation for what they do for our county. Waupaca County is extremely fortunate to have these four individuals providing the services they do in this area. Again, I know the budget is the budget, it's challenging, and I know the services, as I'm talking to the county board supervisors here, as we look into the budget, how we're gonna make some funds up. Because most of our county is personal services, but when you just watch what's being done here, and again, it didn't really get into what Donna does as much with working with our assessors and assessment and preps that allows us to pay our tax bills. It's a talent and an experience, and we're very fortunate. I'm extremely appreciative of the talents I have with these individuals. So I want to make sure that beforehand. So this budget has been approved. Again, my encompassing the budget is approved by the finance committee. So I just highlighted some of the things that are kind of affected within this group. That I put into the budget for this year and has been approved by finance at this point, preliminary, obviously, until it goes to the county board for final approval, but it's been forwarded from the finance department for that. So you're looking on the first page there, the state grants and aids. And again, that was what Jason talked about earlier. That's a combination of several different grants. So it is, let me find my notes here. Oh, I didn't bring that sheet with that. So that's a combination of the initiative grant, the training grant, some other ones. So you can see we are pretty consistent, or not consistent. We've got this year we're expected about 50,000, and that's what I budgeted for next year. And that's strictly to kind of somewhat reimburse some of the things that they do in that department. So that first one I have highlighted is a small increase in expected grant aids in that area. That's not all the grants they get. Again, we talked about the ortho imagery grants, but this is grants directly that's considered in the land information arena. On the bottom of the page, and Bernie, answering your question, again, this is the area that I think for what the value is, this could be 10 times this, what we get for maps. That bottom is kind of what we recover or costs to have the various maps made. And you can see it's under, in the $1,000 range. I think I have it for 800 next year. And again, me and Jason talk about this. And again, I think it could be tenfold, but again, it's a service oriented, providing to our public, and it's grant reimbursed, so to speak, from his position. So that's why that number is quite low. So that kind of covers page 3. Page 4, I do have is our surveyor, Joe Godowski, and I'm again very fortunate we have Joe with us. Joe comes in on Friday mornings, and traditionally on a Friday, he's got several phone calls and or visitors waiting to come see him. I'm greatly appreciative of his services to Waupaca County. To have someone of his knowledge and expertise for us is incredible. So you look at his twofold there. I have his contract for next year, and Joe has said he won't leave until I leave, right? Joe? I'm gonna be here 4 more years. So I'm hopeful. He's year to
I'm
year.
doing my report.
He's year to year, so
Talk about it.
I talk to Joe every year. And said he's agreed to stay on at least for 2025. So on his base, I'm giving a massive increase of $250. So we've talked about that every year.
Big bucks now.
So that's his base salary. So he's up to that amazing $5,750. But that next line is for his services. So he mentioned a little bit earlier about so every month he comes in to me with an invoice for some of the stuff that he does outside of his base stuff. So those are basically paying him for his services. So again, when he talks about construction, he'll come into me and say, I had to go out and check this because the county or somebody is redoing a road. He'll go out and replace that marker, make sure they're not interrupting it, and doing some of that communication with them, just letting them know that, hey, that's there. But as he said, the bulldozers take things off, he goes back and makes sure they get back in place. So he comes to me every month with his details as far as the various things that invoices basically he's worked on, and then invoices the county. So that averages to about 12 to 13,000 a year. So that's that budget amount. So, again, for Joe's services to the county, I don't think we're getting, shorted in any way, shape or form, that we roughly are just shy of 20 grand a year is for Joe's services. And again, some counties, and maybe I'm taking some of your thunder, I know some counties have a full-time surveyor, we do not. Again, I feel very fortunate, and I've known Joe a long time, but, very fortunate that we have him. I know pretty much every Friday when he come in, Donna's got some stuff to sit down with him, the guys do, there's usually phone numbers or somebody's coming in to see him, so. We feel very fortunate, so that's what's that budget line there. So I do have a contract, and I will ask for a vote on that when done, just because that's one thing that we sign off and I send over is contract for next year of a whopping $5,750. That's his base, so I'm gonna ask for that when I'm done here. Page 7 is more or less the land information office. Again, as far as their salaries and benefits, that's kind of driven by HR and their class level and things of that. So that's not really anything I have other than I approve approve step increases and things of that nature, working with them, trying to make sure they're compensated fairly. Again, I think all these individuals do a great job for a county, so I'd love to see them get more, but I think within the structure it is what it is, but we're working on some things in some cases to make adjustments. The bottom one is, we talked about, I mentioned earlier with IT and Brent's budget. Again, I know his overall budget this year went up incredibly higher, because again, the cost of computer and software and maintenance is just skyrocketing. So in this area for software, for some of the stuff in there is just a small increase of $1,000 for 26,000 to cover that. And then on the next page, we have is some hardware maintenance that's being required being requested from IT and Brent of hardware maintenance. So that's 2,250. That's something new, and the reason that didn't go up more is because I just moved some of the funds that we usually ran under that to another line item that is under my treasurer's area, which I don't have in front of you, but that's not going to change a whole lot. Down below, you see that ortho imagery. Again, I talked about that I have that on the capital plan. Again, we've put 70,000 out there in the 5 years. So next year for 2030, I'll probably put out there estimating that cost to be in the $75,000 range. Well, based on, I don't know if that'll cover, but based on what we're able to get this year for 62, pending this final grant, because again, that's being proposed to us, that the grant should come in. If it does, it's approved. We'd be going with that 3-inch imagery at 62,000. If that grant does not come through and we only get a partial grant, we would stay with our traditional 6-inch. And I think that number came in it's less than 62,000. So either way, we're going to be in a good shape there. I'm really hopeful that we can get that 3-inch imagery, because I think there's some great value of that for multiple reasons. The only other thing I have is, well, 2 things. I think I have written on the bottom, land record fees. So he talked about that. That's some recording fees, percentages that we get in Waupaca County that come into there to basically offset some of the GIS staffing. Is roughly around 50,000 a year. So again, as just Jason mentioned, your larger counties with more commercial sales and things of that nature, that number gets up there a little bit. But we do get some partial support there. So I have that bumped up by about $5,000. The last thing I have in the budget that I talked about was Jason mentioned AS400 to T-Tech or Ascent. That is a major change for us department as far as to change all of our tax information. Tax bills are going to look different this year. Everything's being changed in that avenue. That's been a major project for the staff this year. I know it started with Donna and Jason, their area, as far as getting the assessment part with the migration and testing. And now lately we've been looking more on the tax information side, tax bills. We're close to going live. We should be going live with T-Tech probably on Monday or Tuesday. So that's been a big thing. a cost that came in at around $235,000 for that migration. Our annual budget for that is going to be in the what's it, 70,000 a year. We'll probably spend roughly for that software technology. Some of that will get reimbursed by various entities, but that's going to be a great addition and improvement for us. I think T-Tech is AS400 is a very basic, solid program, but moving forward, that's going to be a great improvement for our county. So noting that, any questions on the overall budget? Again, this is approved by finance and goes forward from there. But is there any questions on any of the detail or any line items? So Jack, I guess I would ask for a motion to approve Joe's contract. Again, that's just the base for another year, which would get him paid every month. I don't think you get paid once a month, Joe, or do you get every 2 weeks? Once a month, he gets paid. And like I said, he does come in again, the things when he goes out and that's his base. This is his base. And he does get paid from other services when he's out and about and doing stuff for the county.
I would make a motion to approve the contract.
Somebody make a motion.
You just did. I'll second it.
Motion made, second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Mark.
You bet. So I will get your signature, Jack, and Joe's. I'll get this over to finance or to HR. So I'll be late for you, Joel. And you're stuck with us for at least another year. I keep twisting his elbow and saying, well, like, give me another 4 more years. It's like,
I didn't get a chance to negotiate, so.
yeah.
Joe, how long have you been the county surveyor?
46 years.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. I could slip it in there with 4 years. I might make it slip.
Longer than any other county surveyor.
Again,
I would think so.
we're very
Our
fortunate.
office just used him the other day, right? And as, yeah, great.
Okay, moving right along. Register of deeds.
Okay, I guess
We're
we'll,
up front and forward.
Actually, do you need a motion on the rest of the budget?
No, I don't think so. I think we talked about that. I know, it was asked last time, but finance really approved it. So the main
Okay.
thing I wanted to approve is, I want to make you aware of the budget piece. But primarily, I think we just need to approve Joe's contract at this level, but making you fully aware of what the budget looks like for the entire GIS area.
all right, register of deeds update. First, I guess the big update. The other guy's upstairs yet. He didn't want to come down today. He sent me. You all probably well aware Mike is retiring. I'll be new face in the office in his chair. I guess you might say. I've been in the office. I'm excited about the opportunity to continue the great work Mike's done there. And as far as any updates go, rest assured, he's laid a good ground plan there, and I don't anticipate anything changing other than Mike's not gonna be there, unfortunately. To piggyback a little bit on the land information program, Jason kind of outlined the fees in that $7. I passed around this first chart, with a snapshot over the last 10 years of where those fees have been and where they're kind of at now. If you take out the big years of 2020, 2021, according lots of documents, now into 2023 and projected into 2024, we're actually submitting less money than we were, 10 years ago. And it's a little bit of a problem because we're a smaller county. We just don't have the number of documents being recorded right now. The second sheet behind there, the longer one, kind of shows a history of the number of documents, the number of deeds and the transfer fees over going back to 2002. This year, ending down the bottom line, we're projecting to be, the transfer fee number is still pretty high. It's probably the third highest all time. And of that fee, the county retains 20% of that. So it's good to see that number up. But if you look at the number of documents for the last couple of years, it's down. There's probably going to be some proposed legislation to raise the recording fee. I believe it fell flat last year, but there was a push to increase that. How much it's gonna be, we'll find out, and if it passes or not, but there's an effort to get more money back to the land information program. And I think at last year, there was another maybe $15 with another 7 or 8 coming this way. Does that sound right, Jason?
It does.
Yeah, so, we get along with our land information office incredibly well. Not every county is that way, and there's some splits amongst our association as to whether or not, you know, it should be supportive or not. We're in favor of it. Of course, we're the office collecting the fees, so we'll probably get the brunt of the maybe strife over raising that fee, but to see where it goes and what it does is really important. So, just kind of want to shed some light on our role in collecting some of these fees from these documents that go to support some of these functions. As far as projects go in our office, we're always trying to better our data, put more information out there that makes our records easier to search for the public. We have a pretty significant project that we were able to get some funding from the county board to do some back indexing and go back to our plans to 1960 to make some of those records easier for people like Faye or our surveyors, everybody on our partners out there to access this stuff. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me or our department. But I'm really excited to be able to continue to work with Jason and John and Donna and Joe. We probably communicate daily, multiple times, certainly with Donna on different things. So really proud to be part of this group and have a really great working relationship. Does anybody have any questions?
I never thought about that. You will get the brunt of it when that recording fee goes from
Yeah.
30 to 40 or 50, whatever that number is, so.
Well, if,
If that happens, so that's
And I
appreciative.
think if people
Understood.
understand, and we use the GIS mapping all day long. We're walking people through maps on computers, you know, maybe pulling a survey map and showing where it aligns on a aerial map. So, you know, I'm not too worried about taking a lot of flack with the fees if they do in fact raise, because not only can we kind of explain it, we can show them as we're helping them. So I think a lot of the strife over this fee is not every county has as good as working relationships interdepartmentally as we do. So it's really easy for us.
And I do hear that in my association. I'm very fortunate.
Cause Marcy, before she left, she said she couldn't believe how we all interact. Cause she was in Portage County and you couldn't leave couldn't go talk to the other departments.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a credit to Mark and Mike and, you know, all the, you know, our leadership up top, right up to our county board that allows us to really be team orientated and, you know, we're here for public service and the best services we can provide are very important to me and I'm sure all of you. So I thank you for that.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Joe, you got the floor.
Okay. My report, there's a key word here is maintenance.
Okay.
We're just talking maintenance, boys. After 46 years, body maintenance too, just about wore out. No, it's been a good run. Every year I get correspondence from the state DOT regarding any highway work they're doing within Waupaca County. They give me the project number and what project will involve. And then I get calls from the town chairman or town clerks regarding town work. When they're working on roads, 99.9% of the corners, survey markers that are lost in Waupaca County are due to road construction. Very few are lost due to agriculture or anything else. So when they go through and do a road, they may, every half mile, if they're running on a section line, they're taking out a county marker. So they contact me. I look through the contract. The state is required to do their own work. They take that corner out, they have to replace it. I told them that right out, and they replaced that monument with what was there. And so I look at their contracts, basically, before the project is started, I go out, look the site over, see what shape the corners are in, and after the work is done, I go back and check to make sure they're reset. So every project, I usually go twice, same thing with the towns. So I'll go before construction and after construction. And this year, I'll just go real fast, the projects we did. For the DOT, we did Highway 22 in Manawa. That one had two corners involved. I think one might be washed down. When the dam went, that one might be down by Gill's Landing. But there was two involved there. The next one, Highway 45. There was a smaller project, then Highway 49. That was a big project. They're redoing from Scandinavia to Waupaca. Right now, they're just doing intersections and stuff. That involved quite a few survey markers. 110 down by Fremont, and 96 from Fremont to the county line. Those projects are in it. This last one, Highway 96, they redid the mat and they reset the corners. Everything's been done there. My job is to go out there, make sure that they're aware the corners are there. I go out there, paint them up, mark them. Plus the state has their own engineers. And when they're done with the work, they have to submit a report to me that they reset the corner, that new tie sheet. And as far as the town roads go, I just take care of that. Towns, they're pretty good. I send a letter out every spring saying, hey, if you're gonna be out there ripping up a road, let me know you're out there. And if the corners are involved, I take care of it. That's my report.
Anybody else, anything? Back to you.
Well, I think that's really all we had. So I guess we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll take that.
Motion made, second adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you much. Thanks, guys.
Jack, I need your signature. I'll make sure Joel gets.
Joe, I got a.
Don't worry, we'll get this.